So we know that Nvidia recently has changed their tune about quantum. And on the earnings call, we just heard Jensen Huang mention quantum specifically twice. And we're going to get into that. I've recorded it. I listened to the whole earnings call. So we're going to listen to that in this video, and we're going to cover a whole bunch of other stuff. And they came in and they beat expectations, and they also have very strong guidance. So after hours, we've seen Nvidia trading higher. We also, after market close, had some news that a federal court has basically said that Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are unlawful, and market futures have jumped on this. Now, I think we're too early in this news cycle to really understand what the implications are fully about all of that. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at kind of what happened in the market today. We're going to look, I've actually listened to the entire earnings call, and I recorded a couple key points. I also want to take a look at 4 stocks. So I want to look at Nvidia. I want to look at D-Wave QBTS. I want to look at IonQ, and I want to look at LAES. So we're going to do all of this as efficiently as possible. Buckle up, let's get in. The market was choppy today, to say the least. We had red or flat trading across the board. We saw Nvidia even trade down a little bit in anticipation for earnings. Lots of red in the market, lots of red across tech. And then if we hop over to our quantum watch list, we're seeing a lot of the same thing with some really sharp sell-off from Quantum Emotion. And Quantum Emotion is a stock I talked about in the video this morning. I actually did go ahead and open a position close to this $1 range. It's a very risky trade, but I like what they're doing on the quantum cybersecurity. I covered the stock in the earlier video. If you're interested in learning more, check them out or just Google Quantum Emotion. But besides their performance, really across the board, we saw only one ticker in the green, LAES, and we're going to look at the chart today. And we actually saw qubits, D-Wave, trade flat, which I think is really good for the stock actually. And we see just a little sell-off normal through the quantum watch list. But what's really interesting is if we turn on this view here, this extended view, and we look at post-market change, we can see some stuff is happening post-market with this news on Liberation Day, tariffs maybe not being lawful, and we see that quantum is moving. So we see Nvidia is at 141.37 at the time of this recording. We see QUBTs moving, Skywater, our chip fabricator for D-Wave, is moving. Rigetti is up. LAES is up. It's getting awfully close to that 388. And we have IonQ, and pretty much down the watch list, we're seeing some green through the quantum theme, which isn't surprising. You just had one of the biggest CEOs in the world mention quantum twice. So why don't we go into that? Why don't we listen to what he said? I bookmarked, and we see that Nvidia's up and they're on the quantum watch list because they're investing in quantum now. Let's take a listen.
The question is not whether China will have AI. It already does. The question is whether one of the world's largest AI markets will run on American platforms. Shielding Chinese chip makers from US competition only strengthens them abroad and weakens America's position. Export restrictions have spurred China's innovation and scale. The AI race is not just about chips. It's about which stack the world runs on. As that stack grows to include 6G and quantum, US global infrastructure leadership is at stake. The US has...
So there's so much goodness in just that short period of time. And also, Jensen's very clever in this earning call. So he basically says that this idea that holding back chips from China and that being a limiter or somehow stopping China from manufacturing their own AI chips is a fool's errand, essentially. And I tend to agree. What the argument that he is making here is that US chips and US software, being the backbone of AI infrastructure worldwide, is the most beneficial for the US in the long run. By cutting off China, what is happening is that's going to put that huge market into China's hands. So not only China, but it's going to create essentially potentially a backlash where now China's directly manufacturing and creating powerful GPUs and competing with Nvidia. And China does tend to sell things cheap, as we know. So very strong point from Jensen. And the stock is moving after hours basically because they had to take the H20 chip out of forward guidance, or we would have seen guidance up another $6 or $7 billion or $8 billion. It's insane what Nvidia is doing. They're absolutely printing cash. Incredible company. The shift in tone to also be pursuing quantum and talking about quantum in earnings calls and in keynotes, I think is very wise for the company strategically going forward. So let's take a listen to the closing thought that Jensen had. And this was just about 30 minutes later in the call.
Every major IT provider is partnering with us. Industrial AI, from training to digital twin simulation to deployment. NVIDIA Omniverse and Isaac GR00T are powering next generation factories and humanoid robotic systems worldwide. The age of AI is here. From AI infrastructures, inference at scale, sovereign AI, enterprise AI, and industrial AI. NVIDIA is ready. Join us at GTC Paris. I'll keynote at VivaTech on June 11, talking about quantum GPU computing, robotic factories and robots.
I'm going to rewind that and look at Amit's reaction. Okay, so Amit's one of my favorite YouTubers, and we're going to rewind that just a second and watch his reaction. Okay.
At VivaTech on June 11, talking about quantum GPU computing, robotic factories and robots, and celebrate our partnerships building AI factories.
So pretty cool. We see that quantum is not going anywhere. The theme is picking up steam. And you have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Jensen Huang, talking about it not once, but twice in the earnings call. So we love to see it. Okay, so what is going on with the Trump tariffs? We have U.S. stock futures that are going crazy. We see that pre-market right now. Let's refresh the page and get the most up-to-date numbers. So Dow is up 1%. Futures 1.3 on the S&P and 1.6 on the NASDAQ, which doesn't surprise me because tech always gets a boost if Nvidia does well. And greed is driving the market. Remember, back not so long ago in April, we were sitting all the way at fear, at the most crazy amount of fear possible. And now we're back and we're not too far away from all-time highs in the market again. So let's take a look at some of our stocks. We're going to start with Nvidia since Nvidia is the star of the day. So what we see from Nvidia, and I talked about this when in the morning, but essentially what Nvidia has done is it's traded sideways for a very long time. So if you've owned Nvidia, the opportunity cost of owning Nvidia has been that you've basically given Nvidia money and no return on your investment for almost a year. We know that there's a considerable amount of price history between 140 and 152. 153 would put Nvidia at its all-time highs. And let's go to the day chart, and we see that the stock actually went red with a lot of sell-off. And then after market, we are at 141. So we see a nice move the resilience of Nvidia, despite the headwinds, despite the restrictions on chips, the competition from China, the DeepSeek, all the things that Nvidia has faced just in 2025 alone, and they still come and they give us banger numbers, and they're just getting started is the crazy thing. They're really an impressive company. So what I expect from Nvidia in the near term, which I think is a reasonable expectation, is that Nvidia might get back into this 140 to 152 channel. It will need a catalyst, and the most likely catalyst for Nvidia to break its all-time highs and to move into a price discovery would be that the restrictions on selling to China are eased or lifted. If that is the case, then that's a ton more revenue. And you're probably wondering, Majid, you just made a video last night on how China is so far ahead in the quantum race. Why do you care if they get chips or not? So the simple answer is I agree with Jensen, and that if AI is going to exist, which it's inevitable that it will, it is the most beneficial to the US that it's on US hardware and US software. All right, let's take a look at QBTS. I'm going to turn off my drawings here. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing in the chart for D-Wave. The stock, if we really just look at since the 8th all month, it's really been quite stable. Really, the only dip here was during the bond market scare. And we've seen a little bit of sell-off, but this is a stock that's moved 200%. So when we zoom out and we see that it held this 10 to 12 level, and then it held this around $16 level, and then on its next leg up, we even got some price history above $18. And D-Wave was creeping back up today into closer to a price channel that we have called before. So let's look at that. So all of these lines are basically indicators of either where the stock has rejected before or where it's found support before. So for the most part, what we're looking at is we got above this 1743, which was really important for D-Wave. From a technical standpoint, we can see all these candles rejected off 1743 in our trading session. Even in the last 5 days, those have come into play. So a little bit of a recovery from D-Wave today, and we're kind of sitting right here in this pocket. And if D-Wave tomorrow is able to take momentum with the rest of the market and tech and just hold above 1762, I'm going to grab the chart here. I would love to see it build up more price history between 1910 and 1762. So that would be my bull case for D-Wave. My base case would be it continues to sell off and consolidate. Hopefully it finds support at 1612 and just stays around the 17 number. My bearish case, if there's some sort of black swan event or something unexpected happens, then I could see D-Wave coming down, rejecting off of 1612. I think 1496, $15 would be a psychological level. So I think that would be a pretty strong support, but then it would fill the gap and go down to before this last leg up. So that would be a very bearish case. And I don't really see the catalyst at this point in time. All right, let's take a look at LAES. So for the 10th time, I am going to call this 388 level. I think someone is messing with me at this point, because what happened today at open at exactly 388? This rejected with the velocity of 1,000 suns and got sent back into the nether realm and just kind of chopped around to this 368 point. If we look at extended trading, we see that LAES in this blue area It's kind of working its way back up, working its way back up. Now, why is 388 this level that we've talked about so many times? Let me show you. So that yellow line there has been an absolute thorn in the side of LAES. We can see, as I'm kind of indicating with these arrows, that it's rejected off of 388 probably a half dozen, if not many, many, many more times. In fact, even in our recent price history, as I zoom into the chart here, so we're seeing at least a dozen rejections off 388. So once again, if you guys follow the channel closely, for me to be convinced that LAES is in an actual bullish reversal, it must break 388 and it must hold above 388. I don't want to see it break 388 like it's done in our last trading sessions and then close under 388. It really needs to hold over here. In an ultra bullish situation, it goes up to something like 433 and then hangs out there, because if I'm LAES, I'm getting the heck away from 388. That is the number to get it away from, to break through. Could it happen tomorrow with all of the other tailwinds in wider tech, with Nvidia talking about quantum, with post-quantum cybersecurity becoming a theme? It absolutely could. It definitely could. And in a bearish case, it's going to fill the gap and move back down. So this would be what the shorts and those who are betting against the stock would be hoping for, that it would just come back down. And truly, the reason I'm skeptical is because it just hasn't been able to get above this yellow line. But we're knocking on the door, and we're building some price history and support at 345, which is very healthy, before we make that next leg up. So next stop for LAES, the next point of resistance, if it is to get through 388, is 433. And I would love to see something like this. In a bullish case, I'd love to see it come above 433 and then test 515 and then hang out in 433 and 515. All right, IonQ, our last stock of the video. I know, so sad. It's okay. I'll be back. Can't get rid of me that easy. So the last month of IonQ, your eyes are not deceiving you. This stock has moved 87%. And it had that huge day back on the 22nd where it increased 40%. And then all those gains it received, it hung around, it's been hanging around kind of here in this 44 to 47. And what I like to see about that is that we actually have some price history back in December where it did the same thing right before its next leg up, where it tested its all-time high. So we're building more price history between 44 and 47. And if we are to look at the extended hours, we can see that we're still at the 48 level. So we're still in good shape. So where do we go from here with IonQ? Well, I think things are looking very bullish for IonQ because it's a similar setup to when they made their first rally before Jensen's comments and the quantum crash, which is back here where the stock plummeted 40% plus. What levels should we mark out here is the next question. I think that they're sitting right at that level. Yeah, they're right on top of it. So we close pretty much right below this 48.68, which it's rejected off of at least 4 times in the last few trading days. But once it gets above 48.88, then the next stop is its all-time high. And wouldn't you love to see some more price history above 48.68? Or in an ultra bullish case, the stock continue higher. And IonQ is very good at their marketing. Their CEOs doing interviews all the time, and they're making some very interesting partnerships and tech progress. So let's see what IonQ has in store for us in 2025. And just a reminder to everyone that's following the channel, I know there's a lot of new followers. I know quantum stocks are exciting. I know this whole space is exciting. If you follow this channel, just understand that I am not a financial advisor. I am not giving you financial advice. It is super important that you do your own research, your own due diligence. Watching a YouTube video is not enough due diligence. You actually have to research the company and understand what you're getting yourself into, and also understand that these stocks can move down with velocity. They have before, and they potentially will again. So just be prepared for that volatility, set a stop loss, protect yourself. I don't want any mean emails, Majid, you told me to buy this. I didn't tell anyone to do anything. I just talk about what I'm doing. So with that being said, protect yourself, inform yourself, and thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, you're awesome. Have a great day.